So we're at deer camp right now. The cabin was built in 1908, so obviously we're not going to have any electricity, nothing that's going to allow us to cook in a traditional way, so we're cooking over fire, which is essentially split wood and throwing it inside a cast iron stove. So everything we do is going to be slow cooked, and we're going to have to tend to the fire the whole time. So next to heart and liver, one of the most underutilized pieces of meat is the lower leg of a deer. And what better way to bring that to life than Osso Buco, which is basically just a phenomenal way, a slow cooking way to get that lower leg just tender without having to cut through it, because most of the time when you're cutting up a lower leg of a front and a hind quarter, you just end up cutting it all up, spending hours for something that's like a quarter pound of meat. So instead, we're going to slow cook it and also get the bone marrow out of the inside, which is also one of the best ways, like one of the best things for me to eat. It's one of my favorite things about deer is the shin bone of a leg. So Osso Buco, pretty darn simple. We're going to take the lower leg of the deer, which I said has been marinating for about 5 or 6 hours. Pretty simple. We're just going to dredge it in flour. Just allow it to just kind of nice and cover all sides. It's going to give it just a nice crust on the outside. And that's it. We're going to go through and all the different shin bones. You can see there's obviously different portions of the leg. And you can also see all the different muscle groups that are inside there. This is going to make a nice brown crust on the outside. All right, so the next step after you get all the shanks floured, what you're going to do is you're going to add butter. I prefer to use grass-fed butter. Pure Gold is kind of what I use because it's easy to get and readily available for me. So grass-fed butter, it's going to be able to give a little lubrication when we put the shanks in. So you add a little butter, and add a little bit more. All right, time to sear. Essentially, it's pretty straightforward. Grab a piece and drop it in. Just want to get it nice and brown on all sides, so we're going to put this in our So we're going to put this in our cast iron stock pot. Just kind of set them inside there. We want it to piece there, so just keep setting them in, and we're going to get them nice and brown all around. Don't crowd. Do not crowd. Very important not to crowd the pot. Right now we're just browning. We're not cooking, we're browning. So essentially we're looking for just a nice crust on the outside. We're going to take these off and set them to the side. If they cool down, it's okay, because we're going to set them back inside of a stock, and that will actually do the full cooking. Right now we're just trying to make it look pretty. All right, so this is pretty straightforward. Carrots, celery, onions, garlic. Keep it super simple, don't need to go nuts. We're also going to throw in some thyme and oregano to the mix, and we're going to let those just saute up, get nice and clear, and then we'll add on top of it the Osso Buco, the shanks on top. More butter. It's actually important not to clean the pan. Keep all that juices in there. You don't actually want to lose any of that. All that good stuff, all that browning on the bottom is going to actually make for a great flavor. So we're going to saute all this up with all the little brown bits on the bottom from searing the shanks. Now we're just going to let everything get pretty much clear. So you're going to want to make sure the onions and the celery kind of lose a little bit of that color, the brilliance of the greens and whites, and now we're going to try to get clear. Once those are clear, then we're going to set the shanks on top. So since we're at deer camp, we don't have time to make good stock out of the bone marrow. We're using Better Than Bouillon, which is just kind of an over-the-counter. It's actually in paste form instead of the cubes. I prefer it. It tends to work out a lot better. We're going to make just a beef stock since it's what we have and it's readily available. Hot water, bouillon, stir it up. We're going to need that here in a few minutes. So fresh herbs, we're going to put sage, and then we're going to put some thyme and rosemary inside. What that's going to do is just kick up the flavor. If you can go fresh, go for it. Understand if you don't. So the next part of this, adding crushed tomatoes, tomato paste, beef stock all at once on top and build it up. We're just got a little bit of beef stock to kind of dilute everything. Then we'll put the shanks on top, add some more beef stock, and now we're going to simmer. All right, crushed tomato. Tomato paste gives it thickness, makes it all better. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 11 ounces, 10 ounces, a little bit more than a small can, smaller than a big can. Stir it all up. Add a little bit of beef stock to help the tomato paste. Now it's time for osso buco. So we're going to set the shanks inside. Just lay them on top. This plate is piping hot, so we're just going to stuff them inside there. Now you can don't worry about them touching. You're just going to set it on top. Get as much in there as you can. We want that bone marrow is going to start seeping out and getting inside this, and that's where it's going to be amazing, because later we're going to take that bone marrow, pour it on some bread, and it's going to be awesome. So the key to all this is simmer. When you think you're done, simmer some more. If you got time, simmer some more. I mean, there's really no wrong time to this. If everyone's hungry, like tonight, 45 minutes will do. If you can let it go for 5 hours, it's going to be even better. So now we're actually going to lid it. So just going to take our lid, stick it on, and let it just kind of simmer. I'm actually going to pull it off a little bit off of direct heat. It's already hot enough, and I'll kind of just check it every so often to make sure it's simmering. We just want a simmering action. This is taking place of like a crock pot if you're at home. So if a lot of you guys follow us, how do you want to say it again? I'm sorry.
Tell me about that knife. Where can I get it?
Thank you, Adam.